right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Today we are diving right into the heart of the smartphone arena to check out the iQOO 13.
And we've got this hot off the press review to unpack and see if this phone lives up to all the hype.
Yeah, it's like having a direct line to the reviewer's brain as we dissect this thing. One thing that jumps out is all the talk about sleek design and premium materials, but does that really matter?
Oh, it does. I mean, those materials, they aren't just about aesthetics. They can actually make the phone more durable, which, let's be real, who hasn't dropped their phone?
Right, 1,000 times, yes.
And it even affects heat dissipation, which is a big deal for performance.
So it can handle those intense gaming sessions. And speaking of gaming, this screen, 6.8 inches, AMOLED, QHD plus EA, 120 Hz refresh rate. What's that like in layman's terms?
Imagine, like, the smoothest, most vibrant, most responsive screen you've ever experienced. Gaming, videos, everything just pops.
Yeah, and then there's that HDR10 plus thing.
So HDR10 plus E, basically, it makes sure your screen looks amazing even if you're outside on a sunny day.
No more squinting. I like it. Now, under the hood, this phone's packing some serious power, right? Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, loads of RAM.
Yeah, that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, that's the top dog right now. It can handle pretty much anything you throw at it. Gaming, video editing, multitasking, all without breaking a sweat.
And the RAM, that's like its partner in crime, right?
Exactly. The more RAM, the more things your phone can juggle at once.
Yeah.
And this review kept mentioning zero lag during testings, so they clearly weren't messing around when they designed this thing.
That's good to hear, especially for those intense gaming marathons. Although, all that power, does it drain the battery life super quick?
It could, but they've got a pretty hefty battery in this one, 5,000 milliamp.
Okay, so that's decent. But what about when it does need a recharge?
Get this, 120 W fast charging. We're talking 0 to full in like 20 minutes.
Whoa, 20 minutes? That's insane. Is that even real?
It's the future, my friend.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not standard yet, but more and more companies are realizing that fast charging is a huge selling point.
Absolutely, especially these days when everyone's glued to their phones. All right, let's talk cameras now. Triple camera system. This review seemed impressed with low light performance, but how much does that really matter these days?
Well, it's not just about throwing more lenses on there. The iQOO 13 seems to get that. You've got your high-resolution main camera, plus an ultra-wide lens for those epic landscapes, and then the telephoto for getting up close and personal.
Options are good. Gives you more creative control.
For sure. Plus 8K video recording, which is becoming more and more standard.
Makes sense with all those aspiring filmmakers out there. Okay, one last thing before we move on. The software. This review called out the clean and intuitive interface, minimal bloatware.
Yeah, that's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? So many phones these days come preloaded with apps you don't even want. It seems like iQOO gets that people value a smooth, clutter-free experience.
Exactly. Nothing more frustrating than a brand new phone that's already bogged down. So it sounds like the iQOO 13 is making some bold moves, but who exactly is this phone for? So we've seen what's under the hood of the iQOO 13, those impressive specs and all, but how does it actually translate to real-life use? Who is this phone perfect for?
Yeah, it's like you can read all the specs you want, but you don't really know a phone until you've lived with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So who do you see as the ideal user for this phone based on what we've learned from this review?
Well, it seems like they're really going after those users who want the absolute best performance.
Yeah.
You know, someone who pushes their phone to the limit and doesn't want any compromises.
So like hardcore mobile gamers, the ones who rage quit if there's even a hint of lag.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with that dedicated cooling system and all the gaming-focused software they talked about.
Yeah.
This phone is built to handle those graphically intense games without breaking a sweat.
It's like having a portable gaming console, basically.
Pretty much. And you know who else might be into this phone? Content creators.
Ah, because of that 8K video recording.
Exactly. Plus, with that versatile camera system they've got going on, it's like having a mini production studio right in your pocket.
Yeah, they're definitely appealing to the TikTok generation with that one. But what about the everyday user, the ones who aren't necessarily hardcore gamers or YouTubers?
Well, even for them, this phone has some serious appeal. Like, remember how the review mentioned the clean software and lack of bloatware?
Oh, yeah, that's a big deal these days.
Right. It just makes for a much more enjoyable user experience. Plus, having a phone that runs smoothly and gets those software updates, that's huge for anyone who wants to keep their phone for more than a year or two.
Definitely. Nobody wants a phone that feels outdated after a few months. Now, speaking of value, this review mentioned the iQOO 13 is supposed to be competitively priced. So where does that put it in the grand scheme of things?
It sounds like they're trying to shake things up a bit,
Yeah.
offering flagship level specs and features, but maybe at a price that's a little easier to swallow.
Interesting. So they're going for that sweet spot, high quality, without the sky-high price tag.
Exactly. They're trying to capture that market of people who want the best but don't want to break the bank. Which makes sense these days, right?
Yeah, totally. It seems like everyone's watching their spending these days. But this review called it a strong contender. So who are its biggest rivals? Who is it up against in the ring?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard to say for sure without knowing the exact price, but based on everything we've talked about, it's definitely aiming for that top tier.
So we're talking Samsung, Google, OnePlus, the heavy hitters.
Yep, exactly. Those are the ones to watch out for.
So if someone's trying to choose between the iQOO 13 and those big names, what should they be considering? Besides the obvious price difference, of course.
It all boils down to what you value most in a phone, right? Like, what are your priorities?
So it's all about finding the right phone for your own specific needs, not just chasing after the shiniest new gadget.
Right. Like, someone might be super impressed by that crazy fast charging, but if they're all about having an amazing camera, another phone might be a better choice.
Makes sense. It's about knowing what matters most to you.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to really do your research.
Yeah.
Don't just take our word for it or even what that one review said. Look at comparisons, read different reviews, maybe even watch some videos to see the phone in action.
Yeah, because sometimes a phone might look amazing on paper, but then in real life, it's a different story.
Totally. And here's something else to think about. The review mentioned the iQOO 13's clean software, right? Which is awesome. But it's worth digging a little deeper. Like, how's their track record with software updates? Do they actually keep their phones updated or do they kind of fall behind?
It's like checking if a car still has a warranty, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're covered. Because that brand new phone feeling can wear off pretty quickly if your phone is stuck with old software and starts slowing down after a few months. So yeah, do your homework. It's worth it in the long run.
Yeah. Definitely sound advice. So as we wrap up our iQOO 13 deep dive here, any final thoughts? Is this a phone worth getting excited about?
Based on everything we've discussed today, it definitely seems like a solid contender. It's got the power, it's got the looks, and it sounds like it could be good value for the price. But ultimately, it comes down to the individual user. What are your needs? What are your priorities? If you do your research and the iQOO 13 checks those boxes, then yeah, it could be a great fit.
Awesome. Well said. Well, that about wraps up another deep dive. Hope you all enjoyed our exploration of the iQOO 13. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or just looking for a phone that fits your lifestyle, remember, knowledge is power. So keep asking those questions, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep on diving deep into the tech that matters to you. Until next time.